Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to the WC podcast, where we explore workforce development issues in Southern Nevada. Today, we have a great special guest. His name is Guy Martin from Martin-Harris Construction, a member of the Workforce Connections Board, and a recent travel friend of mine. We've made lots of great travel together. Guy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So I know that you've been on the board now almost 3 years, and you've seen a lot of stuff happen already, but I know you also want to see a lot of stuff happen next. I'd like to start by asking you, as a representative of the construction trades here on the local Workforce Development Board, why is it important for construction to have a voice on here at Workforce Connections?
You know, construction is very unique because we're an industry that can take a need and take it to the community and fill that need from within our own city, our own town, and we can fill it immediately. Construction is a very unique industry from the standpoint that we'll teach you and train you to be the very best in our industry, and you don't have to come into our world with 4 years of education, huge student debt, all those things that you hear in the national press. We take you kind of just the way you are. We find the right trade, the right spot, and the right opportunity for you, and we put you to work the next day. And you're paid to learn your craft. You're paid to learn your trade. You're paid to build your own success. And I like to believe, as a lifelong Nevadan, we're one of the few industries in our state that actually give you that opportunity right out of the chute.
And I love how you always, I think, put it that the trades are like another 4-year college, except it's a debt-free one,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And you earn money while you learn as well. Pre-pandemic, there was a lot of construction projects going on, including, of course, the New West Convention Hall, also a couple of hotels. The Still Resorts World recently finished, and of course, as you know, I met your uncle, Bill Martin, back in my days on the Strip. I've seen many hotels go up. But now, post-pandemic, what do you see for the construction industry? What challenges, or is it going to be more of the same or different moving forward?
So that's a great question, and it really is a two-part question. Number one, there's the business of construction. There's everything that it takes to keep a construction business running. The cost of money, lending, borrowing, the price of land, availability of workforce, that's kind of the business of construction. And I see the business of construction side still suffering. I think that, I've been chastised a little bit in the past for, I don't know that Las Vegas ever emerged from the recession. What Las Vegas has enjoyed is like 7 or 8 years of pent-up demand all coming to a head. The West Hall at the Convention Center is a prime example. That job was planned 7 or 8 years ago and canceled during the recession, brought back to life coming out. It was still pent-up demand. You can't have a sports team without a stadium. We live on casinos. So, that there's kind of a roadmap there that says that those big kind of quasi-mega projects are still going to come. The hurdle right now that we're facing is there isn't another one hanging there. You do have the old Fontainebleau or the Drew that does need to get finished. It's kind of a black eye on our city, but how it gets finished and when it gets finished is still a bit of a mystery. But it's kind of a splash in the pan, right? It's going to be there for 2 or 3 years as a construction project. It'll employ 7,000 or 8,000 people, however many it employs. But then it's going to move into the business side of things. So I think business or construction transactions that actually spur on growth and spur on construction jobs will have some hurdles coming up as land continues to grow in price. Money continues to become more and more expensive to borrow, and workforce continues to be in short supply. The flip side of that is the building stuff, right? I tell people there's two sides of construction. It's the business of construction, then building stuff. Still a lot of stuff to build. We're a very, very blessed company. The only thing we don't build is really single-family detached houses. So the multifamily industry, the commercial and industrial industries, the office industries still tend to be very, very strong, and for the foreseeable future will carry us through. So there's still a huge demand for workforce.
And that's I love to hear that optimistic view from somebody who lives and breathes this industry, because it is hard sometimes for those of us who don't to say, really, can we build a major league stadium after what we've done? I hear you saying, why not? Can the Fountain Blue really be finished? Why not? Resorts World was. And so that's really great, I think, to hear that optimism from you. I think, one of the things that I enjoy the most about you being here on the board is that you've reminded us about the nobility and the dignity of the trades. And, again, not just our state, but this country really needs to focus on making sure that in the K through 12 system, that is a robust option again. And I'm glad, again, we have a superintendent now that is on our board with you that's going to help us do that. Moving forward, everybody talks about the future of work. Actually, before the pandemic, everybody was saying in 5 or 10 years, all these jobs are going to go away. I believe the pandemic accelerated a lot of that. I walked an old hotel that I used to work at over the weekend, and I saw robots taking things up to the rooms. I saw an automated check-in and a front desk. And so automation, artificial intelligence is starting to affect even the service industry. You've probably been to that bar in the Miracle Mile where the robot mixes your drink.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And so how has robotics, automation, the construction industry was one of the first industries to use robots, cranes, to build these immense buildings that men could not move materials. And so this new stuff that people are talking about, how is that going to affect the construction industry, if at all?
So let me give you my perspective on AI and robotics. There isn't, in my mind, in our industry, in construction, there isn't a single piece of technology that wasn't an answer to a gap in workforce. We do not, in the construction industry, go out there and build bigger troweling machines because we want to pour more concrete. We build bigger troweling machines because we can find less concrete finishers. So to those people that sit back and say, well, AI is taking my job. No, you not showing up for work is what is giving AI your job. You not showing up and doing your part is what's giving AI the opportunity or the option to come into that. Somebody not showing up to be a bartender at the Miracle Mile is what put the robot behind the bar. Okay, it's somebody not being the bellman. And again, you brought it up earlier. My theory on the nobility and of trades. When I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, being a bellman, being a pit boss, working in the casinos, being a dealer, those were every bit as noble and decent trades and providing for families as being a carpenter, plumber, electrician, or crane operator. There's no difference. It's when society or when our public change the narrative on whether or not that was a noble craft or trade versus a last resort for a career, that's when the decay began. And that is so systemic. And our society has funded that decay to the point where if you don't go to college and get a 4-year degree, you aren't worth anything. There's no nobility in that. To the person that says AI or robotics is taking their job, my response to them is show up, and it won't. I don't know of manufacturing jobs. Cars used to be assembled by people. People stopped showing up. Robots started taking their place. It's a response to a need. It's not a replacement tactic. I don't know of anybody in my industry that's ever went out and bought a laser screed, that's went out and bought a concrete pump, that's went out and bought any piece of equipment with the sole purpose of replacing human capital. Nobody's ever done that. We've done it when we can't find them. When I used to have a 70-man concrete crew pouring 50,000 square feet of slab, and I can do the same exact work today with 25, that's not because I wanted to go out and not have employees. It's because the craft and the trade was dying, and they're not showing up. So I'm a bit counterintuitive on the whole dialogue around robotics and AI. Sure, there's some high risk, hazardous environments that robots are the right place to go. When you go demo a building and you send in a remote robot and you run him off a camera, that's the right way to do that to keep the workers safe. But when I got 20 pieces of equipment sitting on a job and I only got 18 people showing up to run them, when I convert one of those pieces of equipment to being artificially intelligent and ran from a joystick or a box someplace, understand that's because the guy stopped showing up. The craftsman stopped showing up. That's what triggered that. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, what a great perspective, Guy. It makes me think about that supply-demand equation of the free market and how, again, demand is going to drive the supply and vice versa. And so when it comes to that workforce of tomorrow that has to be replaced, because we know there's this, across all industries, an aging population.
Yep.
They called it the silver tsunami. Again, I think this pandemic has delayed their retirement, but eventually the data shows that we will have a large portion of the workforce exiting and not enough of a new workforce to replace it. And so we have these challenges with youth. And again, I'm grateful that some of the solutions, some of the fixing of these problems are on their way. Not yet to scale, but I know that Martin-Harris is going to do the new career technical education school for the Clark County School District at the site of the old Bishop Gorman High School, and then two more, one in North Las Vegas and Henderson. But the one in, it's unique, the one at the old site of the Bishop Gorman High School will, for the very first time, it will be a CCSD school that has a one-stop built into it. And so again, it's very unique because we have never been in a school. So we will bring our resources and this concept that we've been talking about, exposure to young people at an earlier age to not just college, but all the trades and other occupations right there in the school, be able to access those young people and their families, kind of a multi-generational approach. So that's happening as well as, other projects. So what I would like to, youth are important. I'd like to ask you next, as we do things, one of the things you've helped us start to fix is how do we expose youth to jobs in construction, to all the different trades. And so Martin-Harris has helped us design a model to give some of our youth participants work experience on a construction site. And we really, we've seen great results, and we really need to scale it. So we'd love to hear from you. How has that been for you as a company, as Martin-Harris, and how can we get other employers, even beyond construction, involved to help us, again, do more of the fixing?
Well, from like your first question, I would repeat the fact that construction's a very unique environment because we can pretty much take you from where you're at, get you in the proper personal protective equipment, and the program we put together with the juvenile justice system and everything to expose these kids to the construction trades was huge, right? And it worked well for us. Our superintendents and our project managers that had these kids on their job, they took real ownership of this process. They knew them all by name. They made sure they were successful, taken care of, and protected. The hurdle that you face when you talk about workforce specific to construction, the damage is done on whether or not we can access that young population by 6th or 7th grade. Statistics show that the parent has decided which vocation is acceptable for that young person to enter into, and whether or not construction is on that list by 6th grade. Now, I remember my dad growing up and going and speaking to junior high schools and high schools, and yes, I said junior high school, it's showing my age, and not middle schools, but basically started reaching into these kids at 7th, 8th, 9th grade, all the way through high school, and trying to move them into construction. But what's happened over time is that decision is being, with frankly, the breakdown and decay of the family structure, that decision is being made in single-parent homes much, much, much earlier. When you had a two-parent home and you were raising your kids together, they were receiving their self-esteem, they were receiving their values, they were being challenged, and they were being given their values all the way through their life, and then allowed to make decisions based on the values they possessed when they were like 16, 17, 18 years old, right? Today, what's happening is the single-parent homes are making those decisions for those young kids going into that workforce, and it's typically based more around safety or simplicity than it is about career and student debt and these long-term, long-ranging goals. For us, I pride our company prides itself on the fact that we never do any project only to the first obstacle or problem. If we did, there'd be a whole bunch of half-built buildings all over this town, right? Workforce development is the same exact process. If you only carry the flag when it's sexy and it's easy and it's obstacle-free environment, it doesn't mean anything. You don't move the needle. You don't create a byproduct. You don't finish anything. And so what I'm most proud about our company with the opportunity that Jack Martin brought to us and the challenge that was laid to us is it wasn't easy. I think it took us probably 6 or 7 months to actually get the first cohort out onto a job site. It wasn't easy. We had to answer everything from how do they get there, who's watching them, who's taking care of them, who's providing the PPE, how do we get the appropriate insurances in place, how do we get the appropriate indemnities in place. We covered a lot of ground, but I think we're into our 4th cohort now, and you can't deny the success. I don't know the statistics, but it would be interesting to ask Jack what is the returning attendance in reoccurring programs within the juvenile justice program, and see if the exposure and the program through construction netted his juvenile justice program a higher level of participation. Because if we're really touching the youth in the right way and we're challenging them and we're giving them values and we're teaching them to do things just because it's the right thing to do, we're kind of giving them that piece that's missing in that single-parent home. And make no mistake, parents today have to do hard things and make hard decisions. And when you spend 10 hours a day working at your job, making really tough, high-risk decisions, when you get home and you look into the eyes and the heart of your children, the last thing you want to do is make a tough decision. You want to make safe decisions. And I respect that. I truly do. I'm a blessed man. I've had the opportunity to see all of these different experiences from the outside, but the reality of it is you have to push people. You have to inspire. You can't only take on a challenge to the first obstacle and then throw your hands up and go, okay, I did it, right? That's the person that's looking for the column inches of press and the 15 seconds on a TV spot, that I brought 50 kids together. No, if you brought 15 kids out to a job site for a program and there were 10 that finished the program, where'd the other 5 go? Now, if they got out of the system and went back to a better life, amen, hallelujah. And that happens, right? But if they just quit, it's not them that's broken. It's the environment you took them to that was broken. So when are those tweaks made? I'm happy to report that from the first cohort to the 4th cohort, there's little tweaks and little changes and little enhancements being made, and it's successful.
Guy, I know you and I enjoy sports analogies, and when you were saying, nothing good comes easy, I'm reminded of that movie, A League of Their Own, where Tom Hanks says, it's the hard that makes it good. And, I appreciate that you say that this process wasn't perfect, because it wasn't. We had to learn with you, and you as an employer had to be patient with us as we together figured out all those nuances that you talked about, all those details. So now, though, we are ready, I think, to scale it up. And so later on this month at our joint Board Leo Consortium meeting, we're going to highlight what's happening at Martin-Harris Construction so that other board members, other employers can join us in this journey. I'd like to say also your comments about, starting early. You're so right. And again, I'm grateful that we have a superintendent that's working with us. Clark County Commissioner Chair Marilyn Kirkpatrick has identified a few middle schools to focus on the trades as well, to bring some of the trades in and start, as you said, exposing them, not waiting till high school, but doing that in middle school. And then also something else we've done is we took the top in-demand occupations from the workforce blueprint that we published with the LVGA and the Vegas Chamber, and we developed a workforce blueprint for kids, which includes, again, some of those trade occupations, electrician and carpenter and plumber. And so it's made in a really simple K-5 format, a coloring book, and that's going into the elementary school. So I think that for me, I'm optimistic because this kind of work that's happening at the board level with Workforce Connections is actually starting to the seeds are, if you will, starting to grow. I know a lot of work still ahead of us, but I'm optimistic. So I'd like to ask you also, it's been 3 years. You've seen a little bit of everything. And in the very beginning, I remember I felt so bad when you joined our board. There were some really controversial decisions that had to be made by the board members, and you were one of them. I'm grateful that they proved to be right. Of course, the data is always what matters, the results, and so, but you've seen difficult times, and then you've seen us also get some national recognition. Lots of stuff. And I would like to ask you, what are these last 3 years, what things have you enjoyed the most or maybe been the most proud of?
So one of the things I've enjoyed the most is watching Workforce Connections as an entity for change and an entity for solution rise. I've been, like I said before, I'm born and raised here. I've been involved in so many different alphabet groups, I can't even begin to mention them, and I'm always out in the community and everything. And I would say over the last 3 years, the exposure and the status that Workforce Connections has developed through you and Irene and the balance of the staff and everything you guys have done to continue to push the mission of developing our workforce, young and old, and finding solutions to fix the problems that are brought, right? That's been probably my most proud moment, to see. We'll show up in the most obscure places, right? And we're in the same room, and you have a different mission in that room than I do, but they collide in those moments. And I like to believe that we're kind of brought together in the right places at the right time with the right people. And I in my mind's eye, Workforce Connections really kind of exemplifies courage. And not strength. I'm not impressed by anybody that claims to be strong, and because in my mind, being strong means you can take a punch. But being courageous, having the courage to be wrong, having the courage to be taught, having the courage to just do something. That's kind of what the Workforce Connection program is. I don't think there's anything that could walk through the door that if you put 20 people to work or 2,500 people to work, there wouldn't be a program or a process that wouldn't be analyzed to see if it's valid. And I love that while it is a very focused mission, the opportunity of where to do it and affect change is wide open. It can happen anywhere.
Well, that's a huge compliment, Guy, coming from you, because I know you're a man of action. Actions always follow your words, and the staff has enjoyed working with you. As I prepared for this, one of our staff members was very complimentary, because they said, even though in the meetings you don't say a lot, they are seeing the data from that program, and they say his actions shows a lot. And so I agree with that. I think I know some of those alphabet soups you were talking about. We work with them, but I promised Jared, you and I would not say any alphabet today. So I'm gonna keep my promise on that. I also know, again,
I had breakfast with our friend this morning.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're good.
So we have in our board, I think for the very first time, that unique mix. You're so right. We've come together, the right people in the right time. I've mentioned some names again. Jesus Jar at CCSD, Federico Zaragoza at CSN, Mary Beth from the Vegas Chamber, Jared from the LVGA. All of us here and more really pushing in the same direction to try to make a change in the things we've been talking about, the pipeline of work, how we attract companies, how we keep those companies and help our economy. So again, super grateful that you're on our board. Thank you for volunteering your time, which is very valuable. I'd like to, as we come to the end of the podcast, I'd like to give the mic one more time to you for any departing thoughts that you might have today.
Yeah, I think that, so first off, it's a call to action, right? You have to make a move. I use the word courage very deliberately, because the most of the courageous men and women that I have ever met in my life have been wrong a lot. But even in being wrong, you inspire discovery, you inspire growth, you inspire other people to be better today than they were yesterday and be better tomorrow than they were even today. And I think that's where the secret sauce lies. The real question in my mind is how do we become truly inspirational in the efforts that we make? And Workforce Connections pretty much exemplifies that. I look at the relationship between like Workforce Connections and the Urban Chamber, right? You guys are in the same room together all the time, right? There's a collision that happens because both sides of that equation are working so hard to be inspirational to the constituency that they serve, right? So I think that having the courage to continue to step out there and make moves that you've heard me say this statement 100 times. I am gleefully happy to be wrong if it helps you grow. It prove me wrong. Bring me data. Do the work. That's the biggest thing, is do the work. Anybody that's sitting out there waiting, sitting on their hands to be compelled to action, borders on cowardice. The trick is to be the first person to step up. The trick is to be the first person to raise their hands. When Jack Martin called me and said, hey, what do you think about doing this? My first response was, how do I actually get access to all those young people? Well, let me take care of that. Okay, how do I take care of this? Let me take care of that. Some of the questions I asked, because there is a business that we run, took a little time to discover. But only in asking those questions did the discovery happen. And I think that is a key piece. I would tell you that success should be celebrated, and success should be and I also believe that there's a big difference between pride and ego. Workforce Connections has a ton of pride in what they do, who they serve, and how they participate in our community. And pride is healthy. Pride grows. You can be proud. Ego is all about self. You guys have none of that. And so it's the right place for me to be, and it's the right board for me to serve on. And if at some point in time that mission separates, I'm good with that. It happens. Some of the other alphabet soup groups that I've been around have had the same board members for 100 years, and their ability to affect change has dramatically changed. And so I don't serve on those boards anymore. But the final thing that I'll leave you with to kind of just sum it up, workforce development is a societal issue. It demands that society step up, and all the people that participate in our society step up and correct the issue. To be crystal clear, this is not a programmatic fix. This isn't, why doesn't the school district have wood shop in high school anymore? This isn't, why isn't there auto shop? Why isn't there welding classes? Why isn't there electrical or vocational? That is the people that are standing in front of us and our board here at Workforce asking that question are so misguided in how the problem actually gets solved. What I want to know is, why hasn't society made it okay for us to have more people demanding the training than we have facilities to house them? We have the cart before the horse right now. We are very blessed. We have a superintendent that understands trades, understands vocational learning, is willing to press into correcting the programmatic piece of what's broken. The hurdle we have is that we don't have industries that have understand that at a personal level, at a heart level. You have to get to the guidance counselors of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students to make your industry okay. You have to get, because they're the only ones that have access to the parents. You have to get the truth, the real data. If you believe construction is still a deadly industry, let me show you that it's not. I can. We are one of the safest industries, believe it or not, in the United States. Why? Because we're one that's allowed to self-correct the mistakes we make. You don't have to come in and bang your fist on my desk to make my folks safer every day. I'll figure out how to do that every single day. But until we change that society's picture of the vocational trades and crafts, you can build all of the CTAs you want. It's not going to fix the problem. Problem really lies in the hearts and minds of the parents making the vocational crafts and trades accessible to their kids.
Well said, Guy. And I want you to know we want to be your partner and Superintendent Jara's partner in that. And again, we, as hard as we try to stay true to our mission, I want to be accountable to you. And if we ever start to fray, let me know, because we want you on our board.
It won't be a secret.
Right. Because we want to fix this with you. Exactly what we were talking about. And I believe, again, as we've talked about today, there is seeds. We got to water those seeds. We got to till that land to really make a difference. Again, I have you and I have a lot of things I think I appreciate together. But there's another saying. You have a lot of sayings, but one of my favorite sayings is "Play me or trade me, coach."
That's exactly right.
And I always remember that. And so again, I think today you were here, did a great job.
Thank you.
And whenever we call you, you do. Again, I know your time is valuable, so we always want to be respectful of that. I just want to thank you again for coming here today, spending some time with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you.
So that's it for today's episode of the WC Podcast. Please join us on the next one. Until then, stay safe. Okay, Guy, thank you for staying for our bonus segment called Against the Wall. We're going to have 3 sections, and the first one is called Your Favorites. Are you ready?
Sure.
Give us your favorite food.
I would have to say prime rib.
Your favorite book.
Good to Great.
Favorite city to visit.
Washington, D.C.
Favorite place to go with your family.
Turks and Caicos.
Favorite musical artist or group.
I'd have to say Zach Williams.
And your favorite holiday.
Christmas.
I thought you were going to say up in Duck Creek, but I guess Caicos beats that by a bunch.
Turks and Caicos beats Duck Creek. Sorry.
So the second segment is called Tough Choices. I'm going to give you 2 choices. You'll pick the one that you like the most. Would you rather vacation or staycation?
Staycation.
Are you a night person or a morning person?
Morning person.
Would you rather lose sleep or skip a meal?
Lose sleep.
Would you rather owe money or owe a favor?
Ooh, I don't like owing anything.
That's good.
I'd rather owe a favor.
All right. And do you enjoy the city or do you like the countryside better?
Country.
Justice or grace?
Grace.
Actions or words?
All actions.
I agree. All right, we're rounding to the final stretch. This segment is called Finish the Sentence. So I'm going to give you an unfinished sentence and you will finish it for me. Here's the first one. Not many people know Guy likes to.
Not many people know that Guy likes to just sit on my back patio and not do a thing.
I like that. Guy's favorite way to relax is?
Shooting sporting clays with my friends.
And you just came back from that, didn't you?
Yeah.
The best part of living in Southern Nevada is?
Seeing the thumbprint that our company leaves on our community and all the families that it helps.
It's true. You can't help to drive I-15 and see Martin-Harris all over this town. 3 words that describe Guy Martin are?
Honest, gracious, merciful.
Couldn't agree more. If Guy had to pick a fruit or a vegetable, which one would it be? No, to be. If Guy had to pick a fruit or a vegetable, which one would you be and why?
If I had to be a fruit or a vegetable, I would say I'd be a pineapple.
That's a pretty...
And that's because, I'm a lot better than I look on the outside, a little sweeter on the inside than I am on the outside, and go better with a lot more things than people think.
That's good. Like very prickly, got a weird haircut on the outside.
I didn't go there. Don't make more of this than it is.
This is a new question. It surprised me. They just snuck it in here. Okay, last one. Doing the WC podcast today was?
Inspiring.
Great. Well, Guy, thank you again for staying for the bonus segment.
My pleasure.